I am the group leader for this meeting. Would somebody like to give an opening prayer?
I will.
Okay, thanks, Judy.
Our dear Father in heaven, we're thankful that we could be here this morning as a group, and we ask you to bless us that we can understand each other and express our knowledge and interest in the health communication model and the social marketing. I ask you to bless us that we can discuss these things and enlighten ourselves and each other and share with each other what we know, that we can do well on this assignment. We're grateful for BYU Idaho and the opportunity to learn and grow, and ask you to have thy spirit to be with us today, and we say this in the name of Jesus Christ.
Amen.
Amen.
Thank you. Okay, should we just go ahead and start then?
Do it.
Okay, so we'll just go by the agenda here. And first it says to talk about health literacy. What is health literacy and why is it important? So I didn't know if you guys have the reading from our assignments this week, the quick guide to health literacy.
I do. You want me to?
Okay. Would somebody like, yeah, would you like to read that? Maybe just that first part there about until what is literacy?
Oh, I am taking it from the literacy is defined as the extent to which individuals have the ability to obtain, process, and understand basic health information and healthcare services to make appropriate health decisions.
Okay. And so I was thinking too, so what are some of the things that literacy involves? Like,
I thought that was all so interesting. It involves more than just your ability to read at a certain level. It's kind of your cultural beliefs and everything that, well, not your beliefs, but the things that dictate how you understand
right.
material.
Yeah, and I thought that even the health numeracy was interesting because it's true, if they can't figure out things like blood sugar or cholesterol or,
Yep.
that would make a difference in your health, I'm sure. That barrier.
Yeah, even having a short attention span or, somebody speaking too fast or having an accent would affect their ability to understand what was being.
Right. I liked the, I forget which one it was that we read where it listed the things that you, as a health educator or health professional, that you should, speak slowly and don't be in a hurry. And I'm sure we've all witnessed that in healthcare, offices and we can understand. So you can imagine with people where it's difficult, that would be a lot harder.
If I could actually, if you don't mind, Lisa, if I could tag right off what you had said, especially with the talking fast. I work as a medical assistant in an office here in Rexburg, and I was talking with a woman. In one situation, she had said that, I had received a voicemail from so and so. She was calling, I think, to learn about some results that she had. That she was hoping to get for a stress test because she was worried about the condition of her heart. And she had a test done and hadn't been notified of the results yet. And she called us and said, they left me a message, but they talked so fast and I didn't understand anything that they were saying. And just based on what you just said, talking fast, that makes it so that people can't understand. And she was really worried. She was funny. She said, "Am I going to die? Is my heart working properly?" But there was legitimate worry there. And the fact that that woman who left the message had talked so fast did nothing to alleviate that worry, when if she would have taken her time, that worry would have went whoosh, because she was fine. Her heart was totally fine.
Right. But that's a good example of, you just added to her stress right there.
Yeah, completely. It just increased it. It didn't keep saying it increased, right? So talk slow, right?
I thought it was interesting. In one of the readings, it talked about writing, and I don't know if this is going beyond health literacy, but the writing for plain language, how that's become kind of a subspecialty. I had a little light bulb moment, like, I could do that. I am a my husband calls me a compulsive editor. I can't read anything without trying to reword it and make it smooth. I was like, I could do that as a job. I could go through and take medical writing and make it understandable by a normal person.
That would be interesting, yeah.
Plain jargon. Yeah, on that
Yep.
same, I'll read the list because we've covered half of them already.
Oh, okay.
Speak slowly. Focus on and repeat key messages. Explain things in plain language. Use analogies that people may already know. Avoid using too many statistics. Allowing time for questions. Use the teach back technique in which the person has a chance to show that he or she is understanding the message. And use other communication materials or strategies to complement the interaction. Pictures and videos and things like that. So I thought we nailed about almost all of those just in what you remembered from your reading. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's good. And I think elderly people are, not just people with language barriers, but elderly people get really, I don't know, worried, extra worried, and they have a hard time. So maybe we could go over that. Who are some of the people at risk then with health literacy?
Definitely anybody using English as a second language.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yeah. There was a woman who came into our office the other day, and it's happened a lot with people who are Hispanic. They'll come in and the parent doesn't speak English, but the child does, and you kind of have to work through the child to get to the parent.
Mm-hmm.
But in this case, it was actually Chinese. They were from China, so working more through the daughter because the mom didn't quite understand. For one thing, it made me wish I knew Chinese so bad. But moving past that, because that's not very realistic. It was rough. It was hard to be. It almost like made you feel bad because you knew that you weren't able to fully convey what you wanted to say, even if everything was totally fine, like checking cholesterol or blood sugar and saying like, this is what it came back as. Don't worry, that's totally fine. And you think, all right, did the daughter really get that message across to the mom? Like,
how do you know that? Yeah.
And you even feel a little bit in the dark. So it's kind of like a lose-lose for everybody, You feel bad because you don't know how worried they are, and they're like, oh, what's going on? So, so definitely the language barrier.
Right. I had on my list less than a high school education and low income levels are also at risk. And those with compromised health status. So if they're already dealing, I guess, with chronic disease and stuff like that. So,
Seemed like that was kind of cyclic. Someone who has low health literacy is more likely to end up, if they have the chronic diseases, they're not going to be able to take care of it because they don't understand the instructions, and it's going to, I don't know. I'm not being very clear, but.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I agree. And I think that's one of the reasons that people should be encouraged and allowed to bring a companion or a partner or a friend to their, doctor appointments and different things, especially if there's a barrier of some sort. But also just because if you're stressed about a physical condition, you're not going to interpret the information as well as the person that isn't feeling the stresses of having that condition. So
absolutely.
Your husband or somebody who's not feeling like, oh, it's all, they can listen, they can ask appropriate questions and remember things because their stress levels aren't as high. So
yeah,
their mind is there where yours is somewhere else. Yeah. And so we probably covered this. So why is health literacy important? Just really, I feel like for all of those reasons, we already kind of talked about that.
I agree.
Okay, so number 2, we'll review the Shannon Weaver models for the 7 key components. Does somebody want to read those?
I am just pulling them up.
Okay.
Okay. Did you want me to or not?
Yeah, that's fine if you have them.
So sender, you want me to explain each one or just list them to remind us?
Yeah, you can explain. We have, it says to evaluate them anyway, so that's fine.
Okay. Sender is the person or the source of information to be communicated, or the initiator of the communication. Encoding is the way the information is packaged for transmission. Message, the message of information to be communicated, whatever it is. Channel, how the medium used to transmit the encoded message. Decoding, the way the message is unpacked following the transmission. You're the person or target audience of the information communicated. And then noise, anything that interferes with this process.
Okay. I always had trouble with the encoding. Encoding and decoding to me was like, I don't know. I'm not sure if I'm thinking of this the right way, but what did you guys?
Just the way it's presented. So however that person is sending the message, they're sending it with something, the way they're doing that. So now I think what we're supposed to do is take the PSA texting and driving and plug in each one of those. Let's understand it a little bit.
Right. Okay. So, because I was thinking of, is it like if they're using fear, sort of as a, is that, am I on the right track? Like
I think so.
Okay.
Like some of the ones I watched, they used, one was like an autism awareness, and they used the little boy who has autism and had him verbalize his experience. And so for encoding on that, I put that it was meant to be a sympathetic or empathetic response to his youth and his experience. It's kind of like the, I don't want to say flavor they use, but what they're appealing to was how I understood it.
Emotions or something like that. Okay, because one that I watched was for the assignment was about drowning, children drowning, and so definitely they were, giving the parent that fear of if you don't teach them to swim, they could drown.
Yeah.
So okay. Did you have Bryce? Did you want to say something?
Yeah. If you don't mind, looking at the model right now, I don't know about you guys, but I was amazed at how linear and almost complex the model was. All the little stages. But if you guys think about it, right now, that model is in action every single second, and we're not even with one another. Technically, we're meeting via technology, but we're doing just that. I'm an information source right now, encoding. Google Hangouts is the channel, and you guys are receiving and decoding everything. But everything, it's just so natural. It's just done so subconsciously. And if that's the case, then the noise that we hear, I'm thinking that, oftentimes I wonder how much we really notice the noise around us, and how much gets in the way of proper communication that shouldn't. And so that makes me a little bit more aware, when I talk with people, how well of a job do I do? Am I eliminating distractions and really communicating? So that's just interesting thoughts that I thought were interesting that I was having.
Yeah, that's true. Like how much? Yeah, I like that. How much noise?
Yeah.
Is from understanding, or how much we are ignoring the noise. Even I like the example he gave about you're hungry, so you're listening to a message, but are you really thinking, I really want to go eat right now?
Yeah, very true.
The thing I keep getting preoccupied on is the concept of each person is going to decode differently based on their life experience. Because you think about in normal communication like this.
Guys, so sorry.
No, you're good. Each of us just comes from a different background, and so a statement may be taken 3 different ways.
That's true.
Based on where we're from and our understanding of, I'm trying to think of an example, but just
even with
something might be appropriate somewhere or with a certain age group, but if you said that, even like the song "Shut Up and Dance with Me," how that's totally okay for teenagers, but if you said that to an older lady, she would be so offended because first of all, she wouldn't know the cultural context for it, but even in the context of the song, that would be hurtful and not okay, just based on their different backgrounds. So even if you encode something perfectly, depending on who it is,
Who's
they could
listening? Yeah.
decode that in a different way.
Even with the swimming example, I guess, for me, it was, I mean, maybe if you have never had children, maybe you wouldn't feel that same fear, or, even though mine are all grown, but then I still think about my grandchildren and that responsibility that I have, when I'm with them to make sure they're safe around a pool. So yeah, if you had never had kids, I guess that wouldn't maybe hit as deep. I'm not sure. But.
Yeah.
So imagine if somebody had lost a child to drowning and watched that message. They're going to receive an entirely different and even painful message than somebody who doesn't have children or hasn't thought of what that means. And I think that's one of the things we have to pay attention to in public health or health in general, education, is to never be offensive. And even though we want to emotionally stir them somehow to realize that a certain behavior could be avoided or something, that emotional stir shouldn't cause pain. It shouldn't be something that's reminding people, a good portion of people that might have suffering because of that.
I think what I thought of while you were saying that is also how important it is not to place blame. I'm not sure if it's in this class, but we've talked about victim blaming. And I just watched or listened to a cast from one of the teachers at BYUI who was interviewing for a position at the CDC. I don't know if you guys have seen that. And he had like this day-long interview and it was going really well, but their final assignment was to write a press release about drunk driving. But the situation was that his director, in the scenario, his director's daughter had just been involved in a fatality accident with drinking and driving. And he said that he sat down and wrote it, blaming, saying, obviously these are negative behaviors and blah, blah, blah. And he says that he really thinks that's why he didn't get the position with the CDC, because he didn't show any empathy and he made so many judgments in his press release instead of saying, we're so sorry for all of the families and this is a tragic thing. So I guess what I'm saying is it's really important to make sure that we don't blame, especially with a lot of these individual behaviors, that we're aware of extenuating circumstances and other factors.
Absolutely.
Right. That's a good point.
In my job with substance abuse prevention, we have to be aware that many of our families, the parents might have substance abuse issues already. And so we're educating them to prevent something, teaching them why, without offending their alcoholic father or the mother that might smoke cigarettes or something. And so that's just one of those things where you want to be able to address your message carefully and factually and not do scary things that are
without alienating anybody.
Absolutely.
Take that all into consideration. Yeah, all aspects.
That just made me think of primary, how we try to teach the standard that everybody should be sealed in the temple. But I've sat there through a lesson and had a little girl walk out just bawling her heart out because, well, my mom and daddy aren't sealed in the temple, so she said that we can't be a family. You just have to be really sensitive about, especially with kids, because you don't know the situation at home. You can't make assumptions that everybody, whether it's a health behavior or being sealed in the temple, you just don't know where people are coming from. You have to present it in a way that it's the standard and it's appealing, but wherever you're at is also okay.
Gigi, quick question for you, Gigi. When you were talking, when you had spoken about what Erica was talking about, how in those situations in public health, based on in your job and everything, how do you approach a situation like that and approach everything so factually and just in the best possible way without offending them? Have you found anything that's really effective or that you do to try and keep everything right where it should be?
Yeah, that's a great question. Washington State has learned, really, and so has SAMHSA, what has worked in drug prevention based on what didn't work. you and Erica are younger, but Lisa, you might remember old drug prevention tactics like scare campaigns where they would do a big wrecked car on before prom night in front of the high school to kind of scare kids and say, hey, this could happen to you. Or even recently enough as 10 or so years ago, the meth victim pictures with the scabby things. Maybe you guys are, remembering that. But we've learned that that doesn't work based on, and so a lot of substance abuse prevention has evolved from what we know doesn't work. What does work is talking about the health benefits and the promises of, what addictions you won't have to worry about if you don't try the substances, and different things like that. So I don't know if that answers your question, but we've learned, and I think that's a good example of how it is in all of public health. You kind of learn what doesn't work before you can use what does and address it that way. And really positive messages. So environmental strategies where you remove the thing that looks appealing instead of try to combat it, changing the scenario or the situation.
Yeah. I wonder if it's just starting to change like that, because I want to say that they've done that recently at the high school here about the fear thing, but they also do a kind of a scenario every year where they say that so many kids were involved in a drunk driving accident and died, and then they actually are taken from the scene and they are taken out of school for like 2 days, and they go through this whole kind of real scenario thing. And so I was just curious if that's still sort of a scare thing, or
it kind of is. For every big major deal that you do on, this could happen to you, a crash car or whatever, the kids know 10 kids that drove drunk last night or at prom that didn't wreck. And so their message is that doesn't happen to me. They're incapable of thinking that's a potential possibility of having that happen. So we just flip it. Instead of saying, 10% of you are going to drive drunk in prom, we're going to say 90% of our students don't drive for prom, and 97% of you have chosen not to smoke marijuana. And so by positively reframing the message in a way that makes the kids feel like they're accepted and part of the majority in a harmful behavior, they're like, oh, that sounds a lot better. I want to be part of this 75%. You may have 25 smoking pot, but 75 aren't, and that's a bigger number.
Yeah, well, we want to be in this one.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's so effective with teenagers because they've got this tunnel vision that everybody around them is who they can see. So if they're hanging out with 20 of the 25 kids smoking pot, they think everybody does it.
That's right.
So seeing the numbers that, hey, this is not an everybody thing.
If they know
it's who I'm with.
If they know 3 people that are participating in substances, they think everybody is. It's just that, we just have to refocus and reframe the message in a way that they interpret, oh, I want to be part of that. We already know that teenagers want to be part of the big crowd. Very few of them want to be that, one that breaks out and does something really different.
Yeah. Very cool. Well, thank you very much.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Okay, so we're supposed to watch this.
Has everybody watched it already? Because I think if we watched it, we could.
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet. Sorry.
I guess would it work, everybody? Would it work for us all just to mute our microphones and listen to it? Would that work? I mean, not listen to it, watch it if we haven't watched it, because I haven't seen it either.
Yeah. Yeah, you want to go ahead and do that, because I have watched it, so I can wait for you guys.
Oh.
Okay, I will hurry and watch that.
So we can watch their emotions.
Yeah.
We can take notes while they're. I don't want to watch
at the end like I did. I jumped.
Yeah. What did you think of the teenage girl?
Pardon me?
What did you think of the teenage girl in the video?
Oh, I it just at first it took me a while to realize that this was like a flash, like stop in time, you know, and that I don't know. I just feel like she did stop and think at that moment, like, oh no, you know, I haven't even finished my texting.
Yeah. Have you guys seen, there's one just like that where there's the pause, like the stop frame, and then they get out and they talk. Have you guys seen the one with the motorcyclist?
No.
Oh, it's a little bit longer, and it's cool because they like they go and talk with one another, and they like develop a relationship, and then they come back and it's even more painful because the boy driving hits the man in the motorcycle. I mean, it ends the same way as this one. But that's just heartbreaking to watch.
Yeah.
That
Because it makes you realize if they would stop and think first, you know.
Yeah. No,
Well,
it's
it's
so
just
cool.
the thing that struck me about that is just, I mean, would her mom rather see the text about when they're going to get there or never see her again?
Yeah.
That's a good point.
That
Yeah.
I
Probably.
really hate things with that kind of a message.
I know.
So
It is.
disturbing.
To have the lady be like, my babies are in the car. That's
Uh-huh.
ugh,
Yep.
yuck.
Okay, so we're supposed to identify the key components from this public service announcement. So I guess we could do that first. We'll just go through each one and see what we think. So the sender for this message.
1 Hour Optical and Channel 6 ABC News.
Yeah, that's what I put 1 Hour Optical. That's true. Channel 6.
Perfect. So
And
Go ahead.
you go. Whoever was talking, you go, please.
I was going to say number 2 is kind of interesting for me because we were talking about encoding and how that, you know, you're packing that for transmission. And I thought for their coding, are they trying to get as many different, like you have the mom with the young kids and then you have the teenagers. You've got a broad range of population right there. So they're packing it for everybody, you know, to see a message that could potentially affect them. So they're trying to personalize it by using specific groups of people.
That's good. I hadn't thought of that. That's why I was kind of confused on the encoding part. I was thinking like, are they trying to get you to stop and think? I don't know, to think before you do something.
I think that might be more the message. Is that?
The message.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I definitely think fear is part of that encoding. Just raw emotional fear.
Okay. Anyone else?
Yeah. So I'm just kind of trying to picture the model. So it's, you know, just like Gigi had mentioned, you know, it encodes the message in that way. And I think those people are the receivers as well, the moms who have young children, the teenagers who they themselves have texted and have thought, oh, what if I get in an accident? Oh, that'll never happen to me. Those kinds of people. And I also thought the noise that might come in, and this, you know, I hope that most people would be able to look above this, but maybe you look at the video and you think, oh, the acting's not that great, the quality's not all that good, like you're looking at the cars and be like, oh, that's a Ford, yada, yada, yada. So you're looking at all these little facts in the video which distract from the message that's being conveyed, that's way more important than the make and the model of the cars or how well of an acting job they do. And they did fine, and I can't remember what type of cars there were, but just those kind of things people could get hung up on. And then by the time the video is over, they think, oh, wait, what did I just watch? And they miss that gut-wrenching, just raw, emotional message.
Because actually, I think the first time I watched it, I think a noise would have been the anticipation of, I don't know, I was kind of thinking, oh no, what? I was waiting for that crash. And so I think I missed the beginning or whatever. And so then I watched it again and then I was more, okay, what are they really saying and thinking?
Yeah, what's actually going on? That's a good point too. The video itself could be a little distracting because you're waiting for something in particular and you So it's hard, it's hard to stay completely focused and tune out all the noise. We just latch on to things, I guess, just as people.
I had a thought about what you were saying, Bryce, that maybe someone watching that is going to have the thought like, well, I've texted while I was driving, and it's a cognitive dissonance thing to not pay attention. You don't want to get the reaction. You're blocking out, oh, that happens to other people, or I'm really good at it. My father-in-law thinks he's pro. He's like, well, have I ever gotten in an accident before? And I'm like, don't talk. Just whatever. But
you're not even a teenager, but an adult.
No, but
Only takes one.
Right. I thought that cognitive dissonance is what I thought of, that
Yeah.
you start purposely or subconsciously paying attention to something else so that you don't have to experience the discomfort of someone telling you you're wrong and you're going to kill somebody.
That's true.
You're so right. I hadn't thought about that. That's so true.
I hate to always use substance abuse, but I think it's pertinent here with what you're saying. A few weeks ago, they said that on average, and this is surveyed, participants who've driven drunk and whatnot, 80 times they will drive under the influence, drunk, before anything would happen. So think of, builds up a tolerance. And so people who routinely drive drunk actually think, I'm a good drunk driver. I pay more attention. I'm actually better when I drive drunk. And so that goes along with what you're saying, in the sense that you only, if you do it once successfully, you're building up your self-efficacy of driving a certain way, texting, drinking, hand back in the chips, whatever it is. Distractive driving is destructive driving, and so that could be part of that.
That's true.
That's not to be depressing, but this just a month or so ago at our Logan City homecoming, a kid was going to pick up his date and he was texting and he did kill a mother of 5.
Oh.
So it's not just a video.
It really happens, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my goodness.
Yep.
Okay, so how I guess we kind of talked about how the message actually affected you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think we haven't gone down through the list yet, though. We have to
we haven't finished. That's right. Okay. We hopped to noise, so I thought we were done.
Yeah.
Okay,
right,
so message then.
Message, don't text and drive.
Right.
And number 4 for channel, I think, is, it could be anything: video, TV, computer, YouTube,
website.
Number 5 is for decoding. Yeah, you could kill somebody. So it's going to be the message that you take from that.
Mm-hmm.
So I took it that could be lethal. You could be like actually killing somebody because of your actions.
Mm-hmm.
And then 6, youth or anyone texting and driving. So that's as a receiver. Let's see, what was it? Person.
And I feel like they were kind of maybe pointing more towards teenagers. I mean, maybe just because she was the one that might be a higher percentage. I don't know. For texting, I maybe not.
I don't know. I did for 390 when we had to do our own little observational study. So I went and sat in the park where I play with my kids all the time, and I just counted for an hour how many people went through the intersection looking down at a phone or a GPS or whatever, but not looking as they went through the intersection. And it was something like 70%. It was ridiculous number of people just distracted, but a ton of them, the majority, were looking at their phones.
And it is so distracting that it's almost like it takes it shouldn't, but because you're driving. But my son is a police officer in Monterey, and he was driving side by side along a woman, and he saw that she was on her phone, texting. It was right here. She was driving with it by the steering wheel, and she actually veered over into his lane. Here it is, a police officer beside you, a little bit back, and she veered into his lane. And he's like, okay, my husband was with them that day on a ride along, and so It's like, yeah, we're gonna get her, so pulled her over. I mean,
Yeah.
and so they kind of just get in this where that's the focus. That's so important, you know.
Yeah.
My car reads my texts to me, so if you get a
That's
smart,
nice.
kind of cool. It'll pop up on the screen where you see how fast you're going. It'll say who the text message is from, and then you can push the button on your steering wheel that says read the text. So.
That's
See,
nice,
that's what I'm guilty of. I don't text back, but I check. Just really, and it's so stupid because I think, oh, I just need to see who it is, like in case I need to call them or something. And it's so stupid because then you get distracted, like, oh, what did they say? And
Right.
I've been known to check my phone in the back when I realize I'm being that way with my babies in the car.
Well, when your kids are a little older, you can give it to them and have them respond and be your secretary. They love it.
Right?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Right now I have to keep changing the password because my 6-year-old figures it out and watches Netflix all night. So, yeah.
That's normal, yeah.
I think
Welcome.
just a quick note. We're probably wrapping this part up, but I think it's interesting how, and I don't know if this is intentional, but it's like companies that manufacture like cars and technology and all that jazz. I think they know that there's like a big public service push for, don't text and drive, and that's a simple concept. Don't lift your phone up and text while you're driving. And whether or not they wish anybody any harm, they're like finding ways around that. Like Gigi, you had mentioned like your screen, it reads it to you. I definitely think that's one of the better ones. I mean, that doesn't require you to even take your hands off the wheel. But there are the little stands that kind of like attach to the glass in front of you, and you can justify that saying, "Oh, it's in my field of vision. It's right off here." But you still have to look at it, and you might have to touch something. And they're trying to make all these sneaky little ways to make it seem okay, when really at the core it's still the same. You're still looking away from the road, and you still have to use your fingers to at least press the button to record your voice at the very least. But at the core, there's those same things going on, no matter how sneaky people make it out.
And when you get older and you get blind, you're like, what does that say?
No, that doesn't happen, right?
Washington State just passed a law called DUIE, and it's literally for everything. So you are driving under the influence of electronics, your Whopper, your drink. There's been really funny kind of social media campaigns backlashing this law that they passed, because really you can be pulled over and cited for any kind of destructive driving. And it doesn't matter what it is. So Bryce, your phone on your mirror, what you were saying is right here in your field of vision, that would still be a destructive driving. So anyway,
disciplining kids, trying to get your kids.
You're gonna pull me over for having kids in the car because that's distracting. Oh,
that's funny because
pass the ticket on to them.
Yeah, I know. Here, you guys. This one's yours. You can use your allowance for the next 10 years.
Right.
That's I think I had heard about that or something, Gigi, when my wife and I were in high school. Obviously we were married at that point, but she would tell me she drives a stick, and she would say that some mornings driving to school I'd be driving my stick and I'd eat breakfast at the same time. And I think some of this was in the news, and how that is driving under the influence. And she might have made a comment. I might be making that up, but even thinking about someone like that, like how capable is someone like that of responding to an accident? You're like, not only are you trying to skiff, you're eating, and you're probably doing your makeup or something.
That's what I was gonna say. I have friends who did their makeup driving, so they're looking in their mirror, their rear view mirror, to do their makeup instead of the road that we're going ridiculously fast.
The angels have to be guiding the car at that point. You're like, all right, you're not doing anything. We're gonna get you there.
Yep. Today is not your day.
That was a little bit of a tangent, but.
Okay, and how did the message affect you? So for me, it really just reinforced, like, oh, I do not want to do this. I am not going to be that person. I don't know what you guys thought.
Yep.
I agree. And I think that's the intended message. And it definitely makes me not want to do it. I'd hate to have that happen.
Yeah.
Yep. It's a good reminder to me. Just like I said, I get up on my high horse thinking, well, I'm not really texting, but I'm totally distracted. It does not, whatever the message is not so important that it's worth endangering my babies or the other people on the road. It is not that important.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Everything can wait. Yeah, that's true.
Very true.
What components do you think were strong, or what could they have done differently?
I didn't like how they yelled at each other. I thought that if it had been done a little bit softer, it wouldn't have been so irritating. The noise to me was the, but I'm not finished with my text. You know, like it was too hysterical. And the mother, you know, my babies are in the car. You know, it's just so I'm like, tone it down just a little bit. Conversation. And then what I would have liked to have seen is that she put her phone down. You're right.
See the good result. Yeah.
Yeah, like switch this to a positive message so it's not so upsetting.
It was.
And maybe show both outcomes. You know, you can choose not to text and drive and show the and then rewind and a different outcome. I want to drive. I don't know.
Right. But it seemed a little fatalistic by the end that like, well, you know, choices are, I'm not even done with my text. I'm not even going to look up. There's no chance.
Yeah. She still chose to do that when I'm, you know, like,
Yeah.
So dramatic. Yeah, that was one thing that I thought was good was just the sadness that made it caught your attention, the sadness of that mom.
Right.
Explaining with her kids. But then the teenager had a little bit of it when she got back in the car and looked at all of her friends.
Mm-hmm.
There again, like you said, Gigi, they could have changed it and said, okay, I don't want to be the one that causes them to die, and let's change this around now.
Right.
Yeah. Anything else on that part?
Nope, I think we got it.
Okay, and then how did the message change behavior?
You know, and maybe just because the negative is more on my mind than anything, but I think Gigi's right in that the message obviously had some great things behind it, and we've been talking about how, you know, it makes us want to be better and not be the people that caused that to happen. But at the same time, I think Gigi, you're right in saying that, you know, they focus so much on the negative, or like this could happen, like kind of like a fear tactic, you know, don't let this be you or else, you know, you'll feel so sad and so bad. And I think that doesn't change behavior nearly as much as, like you had mentioned, like the rewind effect, like how cool that would have been. Because, I mean, people could have pictured like, oh, they're going to crash. But then to have it rewind and have it be okay, that would have been like a plot twist. And people would have been like, oh, that's so cool. And that probably would have done more to change behavior than just like the crash and then the pullback. And just
show an alternative scenario. Hand her phone to her friend.
Right.
Or text my mom, tell her we'll be there in 10 minutes.
Yeah, because like, and if that was the case, then it would teach teenagers, you know, if
give them other ideas,
like have your wingman take the text for you, because, you know, most people probably think like, oh, it's a text, I have to answer it. No, your friend can answer it, et cetera, et cetera. There are other ways to stay connected and drive. So that's a good point.
Well, I was a teenager when we didn't have a phone. Like,
I was going to say,
I tell my kids, there was a time where you had to wait 2 hours to call somebody, or then you were going to without an explanation, you know, like this whole thing of I'll just text on the way and tell them I'm coming or whatever. Like, that was just, why do we have to do that? Be where you're supposed to be. Be on time.
My husband is bishop. He was just called to be bishop about 2 months ago. And my dad and my parents were over last night. We have Friday night movie night every Friday night. And my dad was saying, is his phone ringing off, you know, the hook, basically? And I said, it is. I said, even during the day, you know, he has, you know, he's a contractor, he's at work, but he's constantly answering calls and messages about church stuff. And I said, when my dad was bishop, he didn't have that. He went to work all day. And when he got home, then he started dealing with whatever was going on at church. So it just kind of consumes everything, you know.
Yeah.
So this makes me think, do we need to target, if we were working on this, would we not need to target the people like the parents of teenagers and say, don't text. If you think they're driving,
They're part of the problem.
don't
Right?
really.
Yeah.
The parents need to be aware, and the parents have to guide the kids. Like, I don't expect you. That's a mother telling them that she's texting the daughter, "Where are you?"
Mhm.
You know, you hopefully, like, I don't know if you guys have this Find My Friends on your app, but I often look at that before I ever text one of my kids or call them, because I don't want them to feel like they have to respond to me.
Right.
Right.
The message to my children is, don't text and drive.
Mm-hmm.
I will call you later or whatever.
Yeah. I think, and I mean, I'm not the parent of a teenager or anything like that, but I imagine, you worry about being a little too nosy if you ask them, like, where are you going? Will you be driving? Who will be in the car with you? But if you have all that information, you can know, okay, my daughter's son's driving, so and so is going to be in the car. I'll text them, and then
Right.
they can pass the message on. It takes a
Right.
little extra work, but I mean, I could be so worth it in the long run if something does end up happening.
Right.
That's because my husband works nights and he drives a pretty scary stretch of highway and then over a rivery, anyway, water marshland thing. And during the winter, I worry a lot, but I go back and forth about, like, should I text him to see if he's there yet? Because he will look at his phone and text me back. And I think a lot about, would it be better to just, wait another 20 minutes and wait for him to text? But
No.
I feel like there needs to be some of that responsibility on both sides, not just don't text back, but be aware, especially with teenagers. Be aware if they're driving, don't distract them.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah.
True.
So
Cool.
sorry, that was another tangent, but
Good tangent.
Okay, so moving on to number 4. We're supposed to review the application assignment for this week and brainstorm any ideas. I don't know if anybody has done that or has questions. I started mine just because trying to get ahead.
For you.
Yeah, Erica, tell us how you did yours.
I just went really simple. I just hopped on the ad council and found the 3 different. You need a television, a radio, and a print kind of PSA. And it's just what we just did. You just go through and label the sender, the encoding, the message, the channel, etc., and then answer a few questions. I was a little unsure about, as far as receiver and decoding. Obviously, as I'm viewing them, I'm the receiver and the decoding is my interpretation. I wasn't sure if they were looking for kind of more of a target receiver, like who was meant to receive the message. So I kind
think
of
so, because
included
target
both.
population.
Right.
It mentioned target population, so that's how I took it to mean who they're trying to.
Right, but then how do you know how it's decoded? The only decoding I can interpret is mine. So,
Yeah.
but I tried to include a little bit of both of those as I went through.
Good. I mean that probably the best that you could have done. I'm sure she'll let you. I'm sure that'll work just fine.
Right. Like, haven't found the grading to be too harsh in this class. So.
No, it's really, it's like if you do it, he's fine with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wish my other class. I have another health science class, and it's not that way. She's pretty. She's got the bullwhip.
What's her name, Bray?
I hate to. She's wonderful too. She really is. But it's Sister Allman. It's an online class, 390.
Her too this semester.
Yeah, and maybe maybe I have that opinion because I'm not doing as well as I hope. I have an A minus, and I'm wanting to bump it up to an A, and I'm finding it's a little harder than I'd like it to be. But so I'm probably just bitter.
Well, you missed our discussion before you hopped on. We were talking about how 390 and 391, it might just be the class. Is a really, I feel like we all had an intense experience with 390 being a ton of work and pretty nitpicky grading.
Yeah. I agree. Like today I have to write the rationale that we're doing. So
Mhm.
I have to work on my part of it at least. And I'm really worried because I mean, this is pretty in-depth stuff and I have to use data and everything. And I'm like, I have to do well on it. So
Yeah.
I do know from her that if you, and maybe you've done this, but if you email her with any little question, she will send back a really long email and explain, almost tell you exactly how you could do it.
oh, I need to do that. I should.
Yeah, she's really good. And
Yeah.
we have one in our group who she'll just email the teacher about everything. I just don't have time to do that. But she is constantly emailing her for any little question, and she'll just basically outline it how it really should go.
Holy
So
cow! I'm gonna do that. And
I felt like that made a big difference for me too. I didn't have her for that class, but I had the teacher's number and texted him frequently, and he was happy, more than willing, to give me really detailed feedback about how to improve our assignment.
Good. Oh, that's
that might help too.
So
I'm gonna do that.
I wrote a rationale in that class that I've used for the last 6 months in lots of different things for grant applications and everything, because I actually wrote a real rationale. So take it because it has really benefited me. And it's hard in an online class when you've been given a subject or a topic, but I got to use my own data and my own population. And so it's been relevant to my work for, the last 6 months. I think I had that class in the spring.
Oh, that is so cool. See, that's the best. That's the best thing in the world right there. I hope you got an A if that's the case.
I could send you my rationale, but it's on drug abuse, substance abuse prevention. So, but remember, just use the triangle method, the biggest, bulkiest, how this impacts the biggest population all the way down to what you're going to do about it. So,
yeah. And those are the parts that I have. I have those first 3 parts in the triangle. So that'll be good.
what's your program about, Bryce?
It's it's increasing seatbelt use among elementary school age children in Rexburg. So we've kind of talked about that a lot, and yeah, it's a really, really good topic, and there's a wealth of data. Now it's just putting everything together and making it all well put together in a rationale. So I think it'll be exciting to see when it's all done, but lots of work.
Cool.
Lots of work to do. Makes for a busy Saturday.
Topic though.
Keeps me out of trouble. Thank you. Yeah.
Very good.
Thank you for all of your guys' help and for interest and everything. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Do you guys have any other questions about the assignment before I can stop the broadcast if you are done with?
I think it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah. It seems like an easier one.
Let me stop it.